welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a truly unsettling story. For 5 years straight, during Cinco de Mayo in LA and Denver, people just vanished.
Yeah, it started off looking like, just tragic coincidences, isolated incidents.
Exactly, but then this horrifying pattern started to emerge. It pointed to one person, a killer known only as Diego.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We're using the source material, podcast 003, Cinco de Mayo Killer.txt. We want to kind of pick apart how this pattern came to light, who Diego was, his methods.
And the motivations, which are just deeply disturbing.
Right. And for you listening, if you're looking to get a quick but thorough handle on unusual, complex topics like this one, well, this is going to be quite the exploration. Chilling but insightful.
Okay, so let's start there with that initial mystery. 5 years, Cinco de Mayo, LA, Denver, people disappearing. What really jumps out is him choosing these huge, chaotic celebrations, right?
Precisely. I mean, the sheer scale, the energy, almost perfect cover. Think about it. Huge crowds, lots going on, things are naturally a bit disorganized. The source points out, it would take time, real analysis, to connect disappearances across different cities and years like that.
You wouldn't immediately think serial killer.
No, absolutely not. You'd assume unrelated tragedies, bad luck, wrong place, wrong time, that kind of thing.
And it's that delay, that initial dismissal as coincidence, that let Diego operate for so long, undetected.
Tragically.
Until, as the source says, that horrifying realization hit. This wasn't random at all. There was a connection.
Which brings us to Diego himself, this ghost in the system description.
It really fits, doesn't it?
Incredibly well. The details we have paint a picture of someone actively trying to be invisible.
Using false names.
Right, and those short-term leases, classic moves if you don't want to be found.
But then there's this contrast, isn't there, between trying to be anonymous and how intensely personal, almost ritualistic the crimes were.
Absolutely, we'll definitely get to that. But even his workplace persona was odd.
Yeah, the source mentions coworkers calling him mechanical.
Barely blinked, apparently.
And humming mariachi tunes while organizing files, like robotically.
It's like two different people almost. The nondescript worker and the killer hiding underneath.
Those little details, the not blinking, the humming, maybe suggest a kind of detachment.
Could be. A way to distance himself psychologically, perhaps. And then there's that roommate story.
Oh, that's deeply unsettling. Sleeping under his desk.
In a fetal position, yeah. And whispering, "It's almost time. Every May."
Wow. That just screams long-term obsession with this date, this plan.
It really points to someone utterly consumed by it.
Okay, let's shift to how he actually did it. The method. The source lays out a really consistent pattern, stalking victims in the Cinco de Mayo crowds.
Right, using the chaos.
And always striking between 11:00 p.m. and 1:00 a.m.
That timing seems very specific, very deliberate.
Like, he found a sweet spot, celebration still going, but maybe people are less vigilant.
That makes sense. Enough cover from the crowds and darkness, but before everything totally shuts down, suggests careful planning, maybe even practice.
And then the discovery of the victims. The death puppets.
That term itself is chilling.
Bodies posed with these handmade masks, but it's how the masks were attached.
We weren't just placed on them.
No. The source mentions needle marks. They were sewn onto the faces. After death.
Ugh. That level of, post-mortem interference, it's profoundly disturbing.
It goes beyond just killing someone. It's about creating a specific final image, isn't it? A tableau.
It really speaks to a ritualistic element, a final act of control, maybe, over their identity in death.
And the method itself, drugging, then slow suffocation.
It's drawn out, horribly personal.
So the masks. This seems key to understanding him. They weren't random.
Not at all. They were recreations, painstaking recreations of people who, in Diego's mind, had wronged him.
The source gives that example of Mr. Wilkes, his 7th grade teacher.
Yeah, decades after some classroom humiliation incident, he remembered it all.
And recreated the teacher's face in clay for the mask, even down to the glasses.
It shows how deeply these perceived slights were embedded. He couldn't let them go.
But the victim that year, the street artist, had nothing to do with Wilkes.
Right, absolutely no connection. And that's crucial. It's displacement. He couldn't get to Wilkes, maybe, or perhaps Wilkes was already gone. So he transfers that anger, that need for revenge, onto a symbolic replacement.
The street artist just becomes a stand-in for the old hurt.
Exactly. A physical target for unresolved trauma.
And his apartment reinforces this obsession, doesn't it? This shrine to the chaos.
Yeah, the description is vivid. Parade music audio tapes on a loop.
Constantly.
Walls plastered with city maps and old-school yearbooks.
It's like he lived inside this loop of past grievances and future plans.
Absolutely. The maps were probably his hunting grounds marked out. The yearbooks, a catalog of wrongs, maybe potential victims.
And the music. Maybe not just for atmosphere, but to drown things out, like inner conflict or just the sounds of him working.
It's possible. Very unsettling either way. And then they find the locked box.
Right. Full of unfinished masks.
Dozens of them, each labeled with initials and dates.
So this wasn't just about the past. He had future victors lined up.
Yeah, that removes any doubt. This was planned, cyclical, almost like a horrifying schedule.
The level of premeditation is just terrifying.
It really is. It wasn't impulsive. It was calculated, orchestrated vengeance.
And his capture. It almost feels surreal. He volunteered.
At a Cinco de Mayo planning meeting, yeah, in East LA.
The sheer nerve to embed himself right in the heart of the event he was targeting.
It suggests a certain arrogance, maybe, a belief he wouldn't get caught.
And it came down to surveillance footage, linking his van.
Seems like it. Often it's something seemingly small that breaks these cases open.
And when they caught him, he was calm.
Completely calm, according to the source.
Yeah.
And his statement.
Guess I need to start over anyway.
Chillingly detached, like this was just a setback, not an end.
What does that even mean, start over?
Yeah.
In this context, it's horrifying.
It really is, and you think about the impact now on the festivals in LA and Denver.
Yeah, that joy, that celebration.
Yeah.
It's got to be tainted now, right? There's this shadow.
Definitely. A real psychological scar on those communities. An undercurrent of unease.
And the unanswered questions just add to it. The missing masks. Could there be a successor?
It feeds the uncertainty, the lingering fear.
Which brings us to maybe the most disturbing detail in the whole source file.
The final mask in the box.
The one dated 05.202025.
Today's date.
It just hangs there, doesn't it? A
Right.
chilling cliffhanger. Puts a whole new layer on everything.
It really does. A profound sense of unease. Was that meant to be his last act before he got caught?
Or something else.
Or, more disturbingly, does it imply some kind of continuation? Even with him gone? Did his planning, his influence, extend beyond his own capture?
It's a horrible thought. So let's try and wrap this up, this deep dive. We've seen the calculated, methodical nature of these crimes. 5 years, 2 cities, timed precisely.
Exploiting the cover of Cinco de Mayo.
And the masks. Not random, but driven by these really deep, twisted personal motives. Symbolic revenge.
Absolutely. A stark, disturbing example of how hidden darkness can operate right out in the open during times of celebration.
And how effectively a killer can use anonymity in chaos.
Yeah.
And then there's that final date, today's date, on that last unfinished mask.
It really stays with you.
So the thought we want to leave you with is this. Considering that date and Diego's final words, guess I need to start over anyway.
What could that possibly mean?
What kind of starting over did he imagine? Or, and this is maybe even more disturbing,
Could someone else be connected to those other unfinished masks? Someone ready to continue the pattern?
a truly unsettling question to ponder.